This week on Business Mike, the business of acting. My guest today is Maame Adjei. She's a TV producer and currently stars on the hit web series An African City. In today's show, Maame and I discuss her journey right from being a healthcare financial expert all the way to becoming a lead actor on a hit TV show. All this and more next on Business Mike.
You're listening to the Business Mike podcast. Amazing interviews with inspiring entrepreneurs. Subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher Radio for a brand new episode every Monday. For more amazing interviews, go to www.businessmike.com or sign up for our weekly newsletter by simply sending an email to subscribe@businessmike.com.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Business Mike. Joining me today is Maame Adjei. Maame, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Could you just briefly tell us about yourself and what you do?
Well, my name is Maame Adjei. I'm from Ghana. I'm an actress and a producer. I'm one of the lead actresses in An African City, and I also co-produced the show. So I consider myself a creative. That's the general term that I use to reference what I do. Right.
And obviously, you recently settled into Ghana. Originally, you're based in the United States, and that's roughly what the show An African City is based on. So from your experience, can you just tell us about your initial contact with Ghana and some of the things you went through as a returnee?
Yeah, it's so interesting. It's like as we were shooting season 1 of An African City, I think I had been back about 6 months. So I was literally experiencing the same things that the characters were going through. So when it came to, load shedding, electricity going off, dealing with the traffic, I was experiencing those things. But for me personally, as Maame Adjei, my returnee experience has been amazing. Like I moved back to Ghana because this is where I'm from, and I felt like this is where I would best flourish and best be able to live my passion and be at peace. And that's exactly what I've experienced. It's difficult, obviously, because it's a different environment from what I was used to for at least the last 13 years. But there's something about being back on the continent and specifically being back in your home country that you just can't compare to anywhere else. So it's been an up and down experience, but the good outweighs the bad for sure.
Right. And people might not know you actually studied psychology and finance and administration in healthcare. So was your plan to actually pursue a career in that area when you returned?
Absolutely. That was my plan. Actually, for the first couple of months, I went on a job hunt looking for a job in my field because that was my plan. And as I came back and started applying for work and going to interviews, something just clicked in me. I just felt like this is just not what I want to do for the rest of my life. The landscape, my background specifically is healthcare finance, and the landscape with healthcare in Ghana just wasn't that broad enough for me to really sink my teeth into it. So I had decided to just take the rest of the year off. This was 2013. I was like, I'm just going to take the year off. When am I going to be able to have a whole year and not work? And I'm going to really figure out where my passions lead me. So the first thing that I started doing was working on my travel show. And then Nicole, who's the creator of An African City, reached out to me about the show. And I feel like everything happens for a reason because literally it just pulled me into the space that I feel like I've always meant to be, just following my creative passions.
No, actually, that's a very good point. And I think coming back or changing your environment helps you to take some time and reflect on what exactly it is that you want to do, because some people don't change the environment and yet what they're doing is not something they're passionate about. And so they get trapped in this constant cycle of doing this thing that's not their goal.
Exactly. Because just like when you're working or when you're quote unquote trapped, you're in this cycle, as you're saying. So you don't even have time to sort of take a moment and even ask yourself if this is what you really want to do. You're so used to doing it. It's like you're so used to this machine. So you don't even have time to think about it. You're too worried about, the bills that you have to pay at the end of the month, and you're just so focused on this path that you're on that could quite possibly not be the path that was meant for you. So that's the beauty of for me, that was the beauty of moving, just being able to have that minute to really reflect, like, okay, what am I really trying to do for the rest of my life? What is going to make me happy? What can I do where I can wake up every day and feel like I'm living my best life and not feel like I'm just part of the hamster wheel, you know? So moving to Ghana it really has been the best decision that I've made. Just trying to really live my authentic life.
No, that's a very good point. And actually, I was having a conversation yesterday with a friend and were fascinated by the fact that many people with successful businesses, if you look at what they studied, it has nothing to do with their business.
Yes.
So, for instance, yourself, you had qualifications in psychology and healthcare. And if someone told you while you're on the plane that your career is going to be as an actor, I don't think you would have bought that.
I would have laughed in his face. I would have been like, listen, whoever you are, sir, wrong. No, absolutely not. Absolutely. It was never a thought. I do have creative passions. I always have. Like even when I was in Philadelphia, like I would make furniture. But acting specifically, never. Not once did it ever crossed my mind. Ever.
Right. Now, obviously, I'm an actor on the show, and there are very many similar things that I see happening on the show that I can actually personally attest to here in Uganda. One of them is people selling stuff on the road. You have someone selling toilet paper and things. I didn't know that actually happens in other countries, so I was really fascinated by that.
And that is huge in selling things on the street. Whatever you want, you can get.
Yeah, you can actually do your shopping for home while in the car, stuck in traffic.
Yes.
So what other things actually happen in Ghana that are curious that maybe people that aren't from Africa might find strange?
I don't know. Strange is a difficult word because what might be strange to someone else right now is just normal life to me. So I think maybe the easiest thing would be, load shedding, the lights going off randomly. And you just having to deal with that and figure out a way to survive without electricity. I think people in other parts of the world take electricity for granted. And, to have a situation where you could go 6, 12, 24, 48 hours without electricity is really a testing experience. So I think that's probably the main thing. What other things happen? I mean, there's a myriad of things, but when you're in it, you can't really separate yourself and find it strange. I think that people who are new to the continent, once they get here, then they're like, oh, okay, I'm not used to this. But for right now, everything is so normal to me now that I find it hard to pick out what could be strange.
Right, now I just want to transition into your work as a refurbishing artist. So obviously before you were an artist on screen, you were an artist off screen by refurbishing furniture and stuff like that. Was this something you were doing from a young age, or how did you grow to love this particular craft? It
definitely wasn't something that I was doing from a young age. After college, I started getting into vintage. So I just started loving vintage clothes, vintage art, vintage furniture specifically. So I would, take these long drives outside of the city to thrift stores and vintage stores and find these amazing pieces of furniture that had been like battered and beat up. And I would bring them home and I would refurbish them, remodernize them, be it like reupholster, spray, paint them. And I found such therapy in doing that, for myself. I was really just doing it for myself. And then friends started seeing and said, oh my God, this is amazing. Would you do this for me? Would you do this for me? So it really was something that started out as, a therapy session for me. And it turned into a hobby. And then it turned into a nice little side business that I was doing for friends. And then when I moved to Ghana, there's a festival, a huge, amazing arts festival here called the Chaliwata Street Festival. And I did a couple installations for them, refurbishing furniture. So for me, it's just part of who I am. And it's something that I love to do when I have the time to do it. So it's not something that I did from childhood, but I think, time just sort of brought it into my sphere.
Right. And how often do you work on these pieces? Is it something whereby maybe you come home, you're feeling a bit stressed out and you just do a little something here and there? Or do you say, okay, now I'm going to do this, and then you put your focus into the work?
To be honest, Adjei, these days, I think over the last year, I haven't touched a piece. I'm so busy with all the other things on my plate that I'm just finding it so difficult to find time to even work on a small project. I think the last thing I worked on was 2 years ago at the Chaliwake Festival. So it's very hard for me right now to even find the time to do it. That's something that I need to fix for this year. Definitely just work on some more pieces.
You mentioned that Nicole invited you to be an actor on the show, and you mentioned as well that when you're on the plane, if someone told you you'd be an actor, you would have laughed. Now, you're a really, really convincing actor on the screen. Anyone who watches you would be absolutely surprised that you weren't an actor before. So how did you make that shift from someone who isn't an actor into someone who's so comfortable in front of the camera?
Oh, well, thank you for saying that. What a question. I don't think it was a conscious shift. When Nicole approached me about the show, for a few months, I avoided her because I felt I knew I wasn't an actor, and it wasn't anything that I'd thought about before. So I said, Nicole, I don't think I can do this. I'm not an actor. I'm not interested. But she really, for whatever reason, she saw something in me, and she really believed that I could play this role. So eventually I gave in. And I think what helped me for season 1 was that I was working with 4 women, so the other characters on the show, who were professional actresses. And they were so supportive and so helpful in really pulling me in and sort of guiding me a little to the process. And, I guess there's something innate in me with acting because I really fell in love with it. I fell in love with the process of becoming this person, really taking over this character's life. And it's been a growing process, really understanding what it means to be a good actor, what it means to really sink your teeth in a role. Since then, I have taken classes and courses to really try and hone the craft. But yeah, I think just having supportive people around you and people who are already good and excelling in their craft just support you and help you out has been great for me.
Well, I think you're a living testament to anyone out there who basically wants to do something, but they don't think they have the chops to do it. I guess all you have to do is try, and then you never know. It might actually be meant for you.
Exactly, Dowdy. All you can do is try. If you don't try, you've already lost. All you can do is try. Take the step. If you fail, beautiful, move on to the next thing. But you have to try. You have to try.
Yeah, no, absolutely. How is your character, Zainab, different from you? Do you have similarities between yourselves, or are you completely different people?
We're not completely different, but we have huge differences. I think Zainab she's very outspoken. And I think amongst all the girls, she's the one, I think it's between her and Sade, but I think she's the one that can really challenge them and say, no, I think that doesn't make sense. No, I think that's wrong. No, I don't believe that. So you'll find if you've watched season 2, her and Sade, who's another strong personality, tend to clash a lot because between the two of them, they really speak their mind. Now, not that I don't speak my mind, but I don't think I'm as outspoken when it comes to, I'm not as direct as Zainab is. That's the word, direct. She's very direct and she doesn't really mince her words. Similarities, we're both business women and aspiring to be successful business women. She's a successful one. So I really take a lot of inspiration from her more than anything. But she is quite different than me. But I love that. I love playing someone who's a bit more brazen and a bit more confident and outspoken than I am.
Right. Do you sometimes use Zainab as a character to help you get through certain situations as Maame?
Yes, all the time. all the time, especially in business situations, all the time. Because, it's difficult for me, generally I'm an introvert. And then being a woman in business, I find in Ghana or generally, I think maybe this is a similarity on the continent. I think there's a different level of confidence and directness. There's an approach that you have to take to business because it's so male-dominated. And I always pull from Zainab. What would Zainab do? She wouldn't sit here and accept this ridiculous offer. She would push and she would be like, no, this is what I'm worth. So I use it all. I use Zainab all the time.
Can you just give us an example of maybe a situation where you've had to pull out her character to get you through a particular thing?
For me, I think the most recent one would be I had to speak on a panel. And, the first thing I remember is I was very nervous. And the person that I was working with said to me, like, listen, you're here because you're considered an expert in what you're about to talk about. So you have to believe that, and you have to, speak confidently. And then I remembered in the last episode of season 3, Zainab walks into a boardroom and tells a man, no, I don't want to sell my business to you, and here are the reasons. And she says it so confidently and, with such pizzazz, and she doesn't mince her words. And I said, you know what? That's exactly what I'm going to do. I know what I'm talking about. Why am I nervous? I'm going to walk onto that stage, sit down, and say everything with confidence and authority because I have that right. So I definitely pulled from episode 13. I was Zainab that day. I wasn't even Maame Adjei, but they didn't know it. The audience didn't know it. They thought it was me, but it wasn't me.
Yeah, that's the beauty of that, because they see one person, but in your head, there are actually two people in there.
Exactly.
There are certain actors probably listening to this who are working on projects, and it might not necessarily be acting, but just like you in season 1 of An African City, you embarked on this project not knowing that it will become a massive success. So from your experience, how did that sudden success affect your personal life and maybe your career as well?
I say this to people all the time. I think if I had known that An African City would be this successful, I probably wouldn't have done it, because I was very nervous about, taking on this new challenge. But in my mind, I didn't think it would reach this level of success. I really thought it was something small that Nicole was going to do, and it was going to be on YouTube, and like 2,000 people will watch it, and it'll be that. But I think that my personal life hasn't changed at all. I think that's the beauty of living in a country like Ghana. I mean, it's, I'm not Meryl Streep, or I'm not Jennifer Lopez. I'm not walking down the street and people are like, oh my God, there are people who are fans of the show and they come up to you in a beautiful, polite way and tell you, how much they love the show. But my personal life hasn't changed. I think the only thing that's been difficult for me as a person is that I am an introvert. And what that means for me is I'm generally usually quiet, not because I'm shy, but because as an introvert, that's how I draw my energy. And so I'm finding that in my head when I meet people who are fans, and I don't know why I'm saying this, but this is very honest to me. But when I meet people who are fans of the show, I find that I have to almost become someone else because I don't want anyone to feel that they met Maame Adjei and she was mean or, rude. So I have to pull from somewhere to really, I feel like I have to pull from somewhere to overcompensate for the fact that I'm generally a reserved and quiet person, so that no one misconstrues that for arrogance. But that's also something that I'm learning for myself that I don't have to do. I should just be able to be myself, and people should be able to pull that authenticity from me. But it's difficult. That's been my biggest challenge, honestly, is just how to remain myself and not be worried that people would judge me based on who I am naturally, which is just a reserved person,
Yeah, no, I understand completely. And actually, there are other professionals, especially if you're in an industry whereby you're exposed to thousands and thousands of viewers, they perceive you to be, I'm sure when they come to you, they're probably expecting to speak to Zainab. But you're not Zainab, you're actually Maame, someone completely different.
Exactly. So it's really, it can be difficult, but, and it's like you might catch me on a day, like sometimes like I just had a bad day and I literally just want to be in the corner and just zone out. But it's like just remembering that you have to also appreciate, like, this is someone who took time out to watch the show, and to build the show. The show is where it is and successful because of this human being here. So I have to get out of whatever it is I'm dealing with and be able to acknowledge that person and really thank that person for supporting the show and in turn supporting me. It's important that we do that also as artists.
All right. So this is a question I've always wanted to ask, especially seeing all the designers on the show and all the interesting things happening. What are some of the perks of being an actor on a successful show?
The perks. What are some of the perks? Why is this not? I don't know that this might sound very cliche and PC, but for me the biggest perk is being able to work on this show, on a successful show. That in itself is a perk, because you could be an actor, and you just need to work to survive, and you could work on things that you don't really believe in. But for me, I love an African City. I believe in what it's doing. I believe in the movement, and to be able to work on this show and be a part of it is a huge perk. When it comes to the designers and stuff, yes, some designers are very, very very nice and do give us some pieces. But for the most part, we also, it's about supporting other creatives. So I bought a lot of pieces from season 2, I actually paid for it, because that's also supporting, I'm trying to support other people's business. And, it's not always about freebies. So, perks, I think just being a working actor anywhere in the world is a gift. And to be a working actor on the continent in Ghana is an even bigger gift. So I think that's the biggest perk, to be honest, Audi. There's no fancy, I'm being put up in 5-star hotels or flying first. No, it's none of that. It's none of that.
I'm really disappointed. That's the answer I was looking for.
Unfortunately, sorry, it's none of that.
Now, with the success of season 1 and season 2, you as an actor, you're becoming someone who's more prolific, and obviously you're building a name for yourself. So you're obviously, I'm assuming, having different projects that you can now work with that are being pitched to you and so on for endorsements and things like that. How do you determine what project to work on? Because you, as an individual and as a brand, you have to protect yourself. So what criteria do you use to decide, okay, I feel comfortable working with this and not that?
Yeah, for me, the first thing is it has to resonate with who I am. When it comes to brand endorsements and that side of it, it has to resonate with who I am. I can't be a face of or support or be a part of something that in my day-to-day life I don't believe in. Do you know what I mean? And then when I come out to the world, I'm coming to try and sell it or push it to the world. I can't. So for me, it's it really has to be something that resonates with who I am and my soul. That's the first thing. When it comes to acting work, again, it has to be a story that I believe in, that's interesting, that's told in a unique way. I just know what I'm looking for, and I sort of know the path that I want to go down as a brand and as an actress. So it's really just picking out the projects that really resonate with who Maame Adjei is and who Maame Adjei wants to be in the next 5, 10, 15 years.
Okay, that's a good answer. You mentioned that you're a producer on the show for season 2. Can you just first of all, what's a producer? I keep seeing this in the end credits, but I have no idea what they do. What do you produce and what do you do?
So, producers do different things. But basically, the general term for producers, basically anything that you need to do to make the show happen, means you're a producer. So even if you're the person who finds a location for the show to be shot in, then you're a producer. For me specifically in season 2, I had quite a few tasks. So I was involved with casting. So we held castings, looking at people's resumes, trying to see who makes sense for what role. I was involved in scouting all the locations that we used for season 2, sponsorship. I helped with sourcing not sourcing, but finding our stylists that we would use for season 2. So really everything that involves getting this show together so that we can start shooting is what a producer does, and is what I did as a co-producer. Everything. And it doesn't stop after the show ends. Like, up until this point, I'm still, I still have responsibilities as a producer, because the show doesn't stop when the season finishes. There's a lot to do.
That makes things a lot more clear. And from the little I've read, I believe an executive producer funds it as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, executive producer could be someone who just comes and puts money into a project. They could be an executive producer. It could be someone who also has creative license on the show. So Nicole is obviously an executive producer because this is her idea. She has creative license. Her input goes into everything. So not only is she a creator, the director, a writer, she's also an executive producer. So, the titles vary, but there's many ways to be a producer, an executive producer, co-producers. There's many ways to contribute that will make you one of these things.
Okay, all right. Now, from watching behind the scenes of certain movies and series, I appreciate the fact that some things that we see on screen look simple and straightforward, but the behind-the-scenes work to get them in place is really, really tedious and difficult. What are some of the things that are, straining and difficult to put together for the show that on screen might appear very subtle?
I mean, putting together any TV project is very difficult, and I wish people realize that. It's like you're watching 13, 30-minute episodes that took about 3 months for you to watch. To be able to get to that point, that was 1.5 years, 2 years preparation, and it involves a lot of work, So first of all, you need to find the money. What does that mean? That means we need to find sponsors. That means we're constantly meeting people, reaching out to people, looking for leads, looking for people who will believe in the show and support the show financially. Once you do that, that means you have to make your sponsors happy. That's a different task. Then you have to come to all the things that you need in the actual show. So fashion, finding a stylist that you believe in. And then she has to do her job, which is, for this show is a huge undertaking because the fashion is such a huge part of it. Then you have to get your production team together. Then you have to make sure you have your scripts together. Now you come to your actors. We all live in different parts of the world. Scheduling, having to make sure that you find a schedule that works for everyone. Then you have to get everyone down to Accra. You have everyone here for 6 weeks. You have to take care of them for 6 weeks. You have a production crew. There is constant work, and once you're working, issues always come up. Nothing ever goes smoothly. So it's not easy. It's really, really a tasking job, but it's always about the final product. So regardless of the issues that pop up, it's always about pushing through and knowing that at the end of the day, we're just trying to create an amazing product that the world is going to love.
Wow, no, having listened to that, I now appreciate the show a lot more, especially considering that you stretched it out to 27 minutes from 15 minutes in season 1.
Exactly. And not only that, another thing people don't realize is most of the people that work on the show, this is their first time working in this field, so it's like our production crew, season 1 was their first time working in TV. They had produced music videos before, but television, this was her first time in television. Nicole, TV is not her background, so it's her first time writing, her first time directing, her first time creating a show. Then you have newbie actors like me, first time. So it's we really are just a bunch of young people who believe in a dream or believe in an idea, believe in a platform, and really we're figuring it out as we go. So the beauty of it, or what I hope that the audience sees, is progression, So season 1, you see it. Then when you see season 2, you see things that we've done better because we've learned from whatever issues or problems we had, for production in season 1. And hopefully if there's a season 3, you can see that progress as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And actually, I was really keen to see how you followed up on season 2, so much so that I was more than happy to pay for it online. I'm not sure if that's the only way you can watch it or if it's available on pay TV as well.
Well, thank you for paying. That I appreciate your money. But yes, it's also available on TV. So if you're on the continent, it's available on Ebony Life TV, which is on DSTV, channel 165. It's also available on A Plus, which is, it's been dubbed in French. So A Plus goes out to most of Africa and a lot of Francophone Africa, and also I think France and Canada. So right now it's on those two TV platforms and online. Hopefully, as we go along, it'll be on more TV platforms. But for right now, that's where you can find it on TV.
Right. And was season 1 on TV?
Yes. So season 1 was actually also on TV after it came out on YouTube. So Ebony Life TV again picked up season 1, and then A Plus, Canal Plus also picked up season 1 as well. So season 1 was on TV as well, yes.
There's a question I wanted to ask, which I'm sure very many people that are producing shows and content for viewing maybe don't have a handle on, and that's actually how you make the money. Season 1, I know for a fact, was expensive. I could tell from the way it was shot and edited, but it was on YouTube. It was free. Anyone could watch it for free. So that was an investment that you definitely had to recoup in season 2. And one of the strategies you've used was to maybe put it online and have people subscribe to watch the episodes. How has putting it online helped you in terms of making some sort of revenue? And how basically have you gone about making money for the show? Is it through endorsements? Is it through the subscription? Is it the pay TVs? What channels seem to be working for you?
Like you said, season 1 came out online on YouTube and it was free. And what we realized is, most of our audience is online. So, it's the initial thought will be, okay, now the show has done relatively well. Take it from online to TV where you can make money. But the fact is most of our audience is online. But the other fact is we need to be able to make money to make the show sustainable, Season 1 was from Nicole's savings. She saved the money to create season 1. And even after season 1 was done, she was still in the hole because YouTube, like you said, is a free platform. And there's only so much money that you can make from YouTube ads. So, we had started discussing early, how do we make this show viable as far as revenue is concerned? We have to find a way to charge for our content. And so we decided to go with VHX, which is an amazing platform, which allowed us to charge a subscription for the season. And I know initially, I was following the comments. There was quite a bit of backlash, people wondering why they now have to pay, season 1 was free on YouTube. But, as I explained earlier, this is work, and to make the show happen, we require money. We need money for production, for cameras. We need money for fashion. We need money for everything. Like, it's not, these things don't fall from the sky. And the beauty of it is people who really love the show and our fans and audiences who connect with the show supported the show. We made more in 3 months on VHX than we did in 2 years on YouTube. This is how you create sustainable, creative businesses. Another way is we went looking for sponsors. So even VHX, you get your revenue obviously after the fact. After you've produced the show and the show's out there, then you start trying to make money. But how do we get cash flow to even start producing in the first place? That's when sponsors came in so huge. So we reached out to sponsors who were interested in product placement, who we felt like their brands could mesh well with an African City brand. And that was really what helped us to even produce season 2 in the first place. So, we've tried to find different ways to monetize the content. At the end of the day, we're doing this obviously because we're passionate about it. If you're creative, you do it because you're passionate. But at the same time, if this is what you plan on doing full time, you have bills to pay. And you have to put your business hat on. And I think that's what we tried to do in season 2. And so far, it's been received really well.
Well done to you, and definitely you have a fan in me. I'll keep supporting the show because I love it so much. Mostly because the people creating the show, like Nicole, no experience whatsoever in this field. Yourself, no experience whatsoever in this field, and yet you have a very successful product. So I think that's something that other people who are uncomfortable taking on their dreams, they should just give it a go, and you never know, the sky is the limit.
For sure. And I think the one thing that I also want to stress is, like, if you don't have experience as well, the best thing that you can do is collaborate. Find other people who believe in your vision, who believe in your dream, that you can work with. Nothing is a solo path. Everything requires help from other people. So always look for people that you can collaborate with that will help you get where you need to go.
I just want to move now to Girl Going Places, which is your show where you travel around exploring different places. And could you just tell us a bit more about the show? Because all I know is that it's about you traveling. I don't know where, and I don't understand quite well the theme.
Sure. So Girl Going Places came about when I first moved to Ghana and I decided to take this year off. I decided that I was going to travel through Ghana. It's where I'm from, it's where I'm born, but I really didn't know much about it outside of Accra. I'd never even been to my own mother's hometown. So I started traveling a little bit outside of the city, and I just found so many beautiful spaces and places that a lot of my friends had no idea about, and I'm not talking about the tourist sites that anyone who's coming to Ghana already knows about, like the slave dungeons and, this and that. Really beautiful spaces and cultural spots that aren't being publicized. And so I started off just saying to myself, I want to put these places out there, and I'm going to do it in the form of a travel show. I'm going to travel around my country, really explore it, and really, expose it to my own people. That was my first thought. Like, Ghanaians living in Ghana they need to know about these places. Instead of traveling to Italy, just go 3 hours to the northern region and see how beautiful, Tamale is. So that's how I started with the show. So Girl Going Places is just about me exploring my own spaces. As the years have passed, and I've been in Ghana and I've traveled to a couple other African countries, I realized this is not just a Ghana thing. Africa is rife and it's beautiful, and to me it should be the number one vacation destination, especially for Africans, especially for the diaspora, and then for everyone else. So my goal with Girl Going Places is to go to as many cities on the continent as possible and show people that we have beauty right here. You don't have to go to Florence. Go to Kampala. You don't have to go to, Saint-Tropez. Go to Zanzibar. That's the goal. So the pilot season comes out in June, and the pilot season is just in Ghana. It's very short webisodes of me exploring Ghana. And then early next year, we'll do a full season where I go to 8 cities on the continent. And I'm so excited. Like, I'm excited for myself to visit, different cities in Africa. But I'm so excited to be able to share those experiences with the world, for people to see, listen, Africa is the place to be. Come. This is where you need to be, Yeah,
and it's actually funny that many Africans don't travel within Africans. If you ask any African, where would you like to go? I can guarantee you the first 5 places will be off the continent. We don't seem to have an appreciation for our continent.
At all, but I blame us. There's many reasons. Like other places, somebody might say they would want to go to wherever, London first, because London markets itself really well. I don't feel like we market ourselves. We don't market our cities well. Everybody knows that Jamaica is the ultimate, considers it the ultimate vacation destination. Why? Jamaica markets itself beautifully, intensely. So it's not like we don't have these places. We just don't market them well. Also, traveling within Africa is very expensive. Flying from Accra to South Africa, or flying from Accra to even Senegal, which really should be like a 3-hour flight, is almost as expensive as me traveling from Accra to London. So because London markets itself well, somebody would say, well, I don't know anything about the car. Why would I spend my $700 going to Dakar and I don't know what I'm getting when I get there, when I know exactly what I'm getting when I go to London, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that the issue becomes we need to start really marketing our cities, putting them out there, exposing them so people feel the value in spending money in these cities, you know?
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. And that's the challenge we have even within the country itself. You don't even have to move out. Some people, like I personally, I'm guilty of this. I haven't seen things like a giraffe in the wild, yet I live in a country that has so much wildlife.
Isn't that a shame? And people would travel from wherever to come to Uganda just specifically for the wildlife. And you're in Uganda and you still haven't seen it. It's a shame, Dowdy. You need to come on. You need to fix this.
Definitely, it's on my plans for this year and next year to at least learn and appreciate the beauty that we have in the country. And you know, it doesn't even have to be wildlife. Some of the landscapes alone and the sunsets and things like that. Even the people, you know, the communities, the lifestyle and everything. It's amazing.
Absolutely, Dowdy. Absolutely. 2 weeks ago, I went to a place in Ghana called Somenya, and they have this amazing puberty rights festival. And a lot of people have heard about it, but they've heard about it in a very mythical way. And they assume that it's a lot of blood, and it's been kind of demonized. But when I tell you, it's one of the most amazing experiences I have ever had, just to really sit and understand culture and understand why people do what they do and how rich the history is. I mean, it gives me goosebumps even talking about it. And this is what I mean, like exploring our own spaces. Like there's so much beauty in your own backyard, start there. What
place would you like to travel to the most before you die? That one place you haven't yet been to, but you desperately want to go to.
There's so many places that I desperately want to go to, Daddy. Desperately. I think right now, the first place that comes to the top of my mind is I really want to go to Namibia. I just keep hearing how beautiful Namibia is. And I feel like it's one of those countries just gets lost in the talk of Africa. Like people hear about it, but you're like, oh, okay, Namibia, like where is that even? Namibia has been on my mind a lot lately. So I think for right now, that would be like, if I could just pick my bag up this morning to go somewhere today, it would be Namibia.
All right, yeah. And when you get there, just try and engage the locals. There was a podcast I was listening to of this guy who was in Europe and he didn't have any money. So the way basically he survived there was, he would go on a train and this was his story. He had no money and he knew I have to spend the night at someone's place today. So as he got onto the train, he was basically scanning through the passengers and saying, who's the most likely person to help me have some shelter tonight? And then he saw this old lady without any teeth eating crackers out of her purse. And he said, yeah, that's the winner. That's the one. So he sat right next to her and basically he asked her, how do you prepare? He mentioned a local meal from the country. And she was really excited about that question because she had been traveling on this train for a long time. And none of the young people from the country would even ask her about that. Yet it was a very traditional meal. And so out of excitement, she invited him over. She said, come over, I'll show you how to prepare the meal. And when he got there, they had a party. She showed him how they prepared the meal. And then someone else said, hey, have you experienced this? My uncle does that. You should come over and do that. So basically, he spent weeks in Europe just like that, just engaging with people and sharing their culture and things like that. So, yeah.
That's awesome. That's an awesome story.
Now, considering all your experience, both professionally and personally, if you were to attach a slogan to your name, taking into account your past, your present, your future. So basically, the same way KFC has a slogan that says finger licking good, what would Maame Adjei's slogan be?
Oh, Lord. This is difficult. I think it would be girl going places. No pun intended. It would be girl going places. Because, I've taken a lot of risks in my life, moving around, and I've always done it at the whim of my soul. I've always done it on an impulse. I didn't plan to move back to Ghana. I came to Ghana for a 2-week vacation. By the time I was leaving, I was like, that's it. I'm moving back. I went back, quit my job, rented my house, shipped everything, including my car. And in 2 months, I was back. So I really believe in really moving where your soul takes you and exploring everything the world has to offer. So I think my slogan will be girl going places, going places physically, but really going places emotionally, going places in my art, going places in my personal life. I think that's the perfect slogan for Maame Adjei right now.
No, it fits perfectly. I have to agree. Right, this is the final question. If you were cast away to a desert island, one of those fancy places that you're going to travel to, what book would you take with you? What movie would you take with you? And what song would you take with you?
Okay, so what book would I take with me? The book that I would take with me would probably be Winnie Mandela's autobiography. It's called Part of My Soul Went With Him. I've read that book. I have it. I own it. I think I've read it about 4 times. I can keep reading it. I love that book. What song? Did you say what song?
Yeah, what movie and then what song?
What movie would I take along? Shawshank Redemption. I love that movie. I've watched it 1 trillion times. Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, no, I love it as well. Very, very inspiring movie and very moving as well.
Yeah, great movie. The song is hard. I can't pick one, but I'd say I'll take anything by. I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I'm gonna say I'll take anything by Lauryn Hill, D'Angelo, or Prince.
Right. So, how can we, the listeners, get in touch with you or learn more about yourself, the Girl Going Places, an African City, on social media and the website?
Oh, sure. So, the website is missadjei.com. So, MSADJEI.com. It's the same for Instagram. You can find me there at Miss Adjei. Basically, all my social media is Miss Adjei. So, just type in Miss Adjei and find me. And message me. I'm really good with replying to people. So find me on social media.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Maame. I can't tell you how happy I am for you to be on the show, and we've had a very, very long but interesting chat. I'm sure the listeners will benefit from it, and we wish you the very best with everything you're doing. And you're definitely a girl going places.
Oh, thank you, Dowdy. I really enjoyed this conversation very, very much. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Business Mike podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you'd like to listen to more episodes just like this one, simply go to businessmike.com. I would love to hear from you. So if you've got any questions or feedback, you can reach me on Twitter at Dowdy Mugabe, on Facebook at Business Mike, or email. That's dowdy@businessmike.com. Don't forget, we have a brand new episode every Monday. And until then, take care.